Terry,
Yes.
do you want to share on your page? You can share on your page.
How do I even do that? Because I was trying to figure that out. It says we are live on Facebook.
Yes, when you go to before and after I say I do, you just share on
No, but
your
I'm using
page.
my phone.
Wow, so we are live. So
Yes,
it's
we
nice to
are.
come. Yes, we are. It's nice to come to you live again on Fridays. We always look forward to coming to you live on Fridays from before and after I say I do. I'm your host, Pauline Gikang'ah, and always a joy and a happy July. It's a new month that God has given us to come again together. And this month, as we posted, we'll be talking about topics on before I say I do. So June, we talked a lot about after I say I do, 4 different topics. And so this month, we're going to talk about topics on before I say I do. And before I go on to introduce our today's topic, I want to tell to request my guest, Pastor Terry, say hello to the viewers.
Hello, everybody. My name is Pastor Terry Gobanga. I am blessed to be in your midst today. Not in your midst, on your screens, whatever you're using. And let's see what God has for us today.
Wow, thank you very much. And of course, it's good morning to you. Yeah.
Yes,
Well,
to me, it's good morning.
it is
Exactly.
good morning.
Yes.
Over here is good
Yeah.
evening. So it's
Uh-huh.
just slightly after 7:30. And so,
Yeah.
yeah, we thank God that we could make it even with a different time zone. So welcome, Pastor Terry. I'm
Thank
really
you.
honored to have you here.
Thank
And
you. Thank
so
you.
we are going to talk about keeping hope alive in this month
Mm-hmm.
because many times when people before they say I do, they go through circumstances, and we are going to
Mm-hmm.
go and experiences, and that's what we'll be talking about this month. Different experiences that we go through before we say I do, that make us at times feel like, oh my God, will this happen? And
Mm-hmm.
when it happens, I've gone through this thing, I've gone through this shameful experience. For example, I've been probably everybody knows about what happened to be maybe growing up or something. And you wonder, how do I move on? Is it
Yeah.
something I'll have to share with them, the fiancé? What if he hears from people what happened to me? And so there are many things that can make somebody who is trusting to get to the other side of marriage to
Mm-hmm.
feel hopeless, to feel
That's
like
true.
there's no hope. I'll not make it the
Mm-hmm.
other side. And
Mm-hmm.
of course, we saw it right to start with the topic of rape. And we
Mm-hmm.
know many people, we actually had people write in when they saw this and they said, I've been through this. I can't wait for this evening. So I know
Mm-hmm.
there are people who are going to really benefit. I mean, all of us will have something because we have friends, we have siblings. We don't know what tomorrow holds. And our prayer is that
Absolutely.
this thing really stops. But we know
Mm-hmm.
that we are in the world, and in the world,
Yeah.
there are many, many problems and issues. And
Yeah.
so, rape, and I was saying the other day when I was putting it up on Facebook, I mean, even writing, even talking about rape enough is traumatizing,
That's true. That's
you
true.
even the thought of it is traumatizing. And so
Mm-hmm.
possibly there are people who have gone through rape. Of course, we know majority statistic wise is ladies who go through rape, but we know
Yeah.
there are men who also are raped. And
That's
so
right.
I know you'll also, because I'm sure you've interacted with some even of the
Yes.
opposite sex who have gone through it. So I'm sure each and
Absolutely.
everybody is gonna get something. And
Mm-hmm.
so maybe the first thing I would ask you, Terry, is maybe what was growing up? What was your
Mm-hmm.
vision of, you growing up as a girl? What was your vision of getting married? What was going around your mind?
Okay. Um, I think growing up, we grew up knowing that we are super wealthy until our bubble was busted when we visited a neighbor who had a color TV. So, so we were in such a cocoon. We were a family of 6 girls, 1 boy. but we just never interacted with other people easily
Mm.
because we're 7 kids. I mean, really, we didn't need someone from outside, coming
You're
in.
enough.
And yeah, and then when it comes to marriage, I wanted to get married to my dad. I did not know it was wrong at that time. So I just remember saying, because I loved the way my dad treated my mother. I loved how gentle he was, and so I just knew, I want to get married to my dad. Then of course when I got to the age of knowing you can't marry your father, then I started thinking, oh well, no problem, I'm just going to get someone exactly like him. So I had all these thoughts that every, or maybe let me say 98% of little girls who've been allowed to dream have, basically where you play in Kenya, that's chamama, chababa. And it
Mm.
was so beautiful to just grow up with the dolls and assuming they're your children and cooking imaginary food. It was beautiful, so that's basically my growing up. Very, very stable home, I must say, and introduced to Christianity pretty early. Born and raised Catholic. So it's at one point it's when I left Catholic to join Protestant, but that's basically my background.
Wow. So at
Yes.
what point did you start dating?
Uh-huh. I was in college, I guess. Yes, I was in college. In my primary, of course, those days, I think even today should be the same. You don't think about a boyfriend. Secondary, it was definitely not there. But now when I got into college, that's when I started dating. And it wasn't even anything serious. It was actually friendship. I can't call it dating because lines were never defined. Nowadays we encourage people to define lines. Don't just be in a relationship whereby you're having coffee 24/7, only for, later on you're wondering, he's not putting a ring on it. And the man is thinking, we've been having coffee, woman. That's all we've been doing. So yeah, it wasn't defined as a relationship. The one that was actually defined is, the very serious one that God decided for it to take every other direction.
And we are
Yeah,
going to get to that definitely.
absolutely.
So now that we're talking about the topic rape, yeah, had you
Hmm.
ever, had it ever, did you take any interest before even you ever got married about maybe a rape victim? Were you
Hmm.
interested in, I mean, just learning a little bit? Was it taking your attention?
Never. The word is never. One thing about me, growing up was I've always had a heart of being with those that are hurting, to a point that my mom would tell me, is something wrong with you? Why do you always identify yourself with, the lowly, those who are hurting, those who are going through issues? Those are the circles you would find me. And it's interesting that most of the time I would be found, if I'm not in church, soaking myself in every other way, even back in Catholic, singing, drama, being that more or less like an altar girl, choir mistress, everything. I was with the people who, there's a funeral maybe, and someone needed to be there to sing, to serve. Basically, I serve. I serve with all my heart. And then number two, I don't like seeing people hurt from the time I was a little girl. So what I used to do, and I remember my sisters telling me, oh, if only you would pray all the prayers you do for strangers, we would be so far as a family. Because anytime I would watch something on TV, it doesn't matter whether it's in Mandera or it's out of the country, but I just never like people hurting. But
Mm.
rape never took the center stage. I can't, I don't even remember having somebody who had gone through it. So, and then for us, it was never mentioned in the house. There were those beautiful days where we would go outside and play, where you'd have uncles coming in and, having sleepovers. There were those good days. That's what I'm
Yes.
saying. There were those good days when people were still people
Well, people are, but
and not
nothing
animals.
about, I get you. So never ever,
Absolutely.
it never caught your interest at any
No, never,
point.
never,
Wow,
never. Hmm.
interesting. Okay.
Yes.
So maybe Terry, so you have this serious relationship. Okay, so tell us, now take us through, please, maybe the events then that occurred after that. Yeah.
Yeah. So, so back in college, of course, when I'm excited that actually to take it back, I'm from IT background, so I'm still working in this IT field. And when I meet this gentleman and I tell him, so of course we are talking and something is taking off, but then I feel the call of God in my life. And I say, I'm never going to be a pastor. That's not anything that I'm going for. But I want to go to Bible school and understand the word of God better, be able to interact with it better. I just want to know more about what the scripture says in a more structural form. And so I told him about it and I said, I know, yes, we have something going on, but I want to go to Bible school, and he says, take your time, I will be right here waiting for you no matter how long it takes. So I did. I went to Bible school 3 years later. As I'm graduating, we organized that we are graduating, and 2 weeks later, so 2 weeks apart, I'll be able to have my wedding. And that's exactly what we planned. And on the day of the wedding, of course, the excitement, the day is finally here. The day that, almost every little girl dreams about, and it has now come to fruition, so to speak. So early morning, actually the previous night, I discovered that I had some of the clothes of my fiance and, cravat, things like that. And I thought, so we had a phone conversation with him, and he said, no problem. Once I get to church, our wedding was going to be at the All Saints Cathedral. So once I get to church, I will be able to give him this attire. So come morning, on that Saturday morning, one of my friends who had spent the night over, amazing friend Judy, and she said, since I'm going to the church before you, how about I go with these things to him? And I was really excited. But then Judy was not very conversant with where we were staying at the time, and she wasn't driving either. So I sneaked out, after I talked to my best mate said, I am preparing breakfast for the bride, the best maid doing her thing, making sure that my breakfast is really grand. But my parents were not awake, neither were my relatives. This is about 5:45 in the morning. And so it's a chill day. We know we take our time, the bride side, we know you're going to work with our time,
Yes.
So it was a quite chill day. So I sneaked out before my parents could wake up. So it was only my best maid who was awake at the time. And I rushed Judy to the bus stop, which wasn't far from our house. So coming back, that's when I saw a car parked in front of me. And there was a guy sitting on the bonnet for Kenya, and this place, trunk, the hood of the trunk of the car. And I was wondering, well, at that point, I actually did not wonder because my mind was fixed on the wedding. So all my emotions, all my energies are gathered to just the excitement, and I'm just, of course, a little bit scared. How is marriage life exactly? But then it's gonna be exactly like my parents. All the dreams that we have.
That's what was in your mind.
Absolutely. So when I get to this car, so one of the guys is sitting on the trunk, and another guy is on the other side of the car. And I pass the car shortly, and a guy grabs me from behind. Of course, at that time, I don't know if it is that guy. I do not know. And I'm telling you, in a flash of a second, I am whisked in the car. Something is stuffed in my mouth. So I'm down to the back seat. Everything is happening so fast. Of course, the car takes off real quick. And I realize we are three. So there's the driver, there's a co-driver, and myself. And I'm wondering to myself, it's my wedding day. So clearly, my husband, my fiance then, must be having a surprise. I mean, there can't be anything wrong. So I push the pieces of cloth from my mouth and I say, but it's my wedding day. And one of the guy who was with me at the back really bursts out in laughter and says, Ata sisi ni harusi yetu, even as it's our wedding day. And at that point, that's when the first jab landed on my cheek. That's when I knew, no, something is terribly wrong. This is not a
A
surprise.
joke.
This is not a joke. This is serious. And after that, they just kept raining blows, and telling me you have to cooperate or you will die. They became very, how can I say it? They became very arrogant, very mean. That's the word. They became just very mean. And of course, everything is happening real quick. By this time, I still don't know what they want. So in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, maybe they know it's my wedding and they think I have money and, you know, all these things last minute. Maybe we are keeping money for honeymoon and stuff like that. So I'm trying to talk, but remember, they've stashed back the pieces of cloth in my mouth. And so I'm trying to fight those just, for me, every time you're going through rape, there's either freeze, flight, but for me, it was never freeze. For me, it was fight. It wasn't flight because I couldn't take off. So for me, it was fight. So I kept fighting. And that's when someone said, you need to get off your pants. I was wearing my pair of jeans. And that's when it hit me. Oh my goodness, what I have read before, what I have heard, this is it. I mean, is this going to happen to me? And long and short of it, managed to pull out my pants, and then the fast man raped me. When he was done, the co-driver came, and this was in a split of a second. I cannot remember the car stopping. And he as well raped me. When he was done, that's the time I remember, that the car stopped and the driver came behind. And all this while, you fix your eyes. I tell you, my coping mechanism, fix your eyes, the light of the car, because you can't even imagine, like, you cannot even think this is actually happening to you. And so when the driver came, he decided to be different. He started removing the pieces of cloth from my mouth. This time I'm tired. I'm in pain. I am bleeding. I am swollen. I could taste blood, the way I was being punched. And he removed the pieces of cloth from my mouth. He opened his zipper, removed his manhood, and put it in my mouth. And at this time, that's when I knew, okay, so this is not going to happen to any other person. It ends with me when it comes to you, whoever you are. So I just sank in my teeth and I just took a bite. And when that happened, I can't even remember ever hearing a man screaming like that in my life. There was just a certain groan that came from this man. And I don't know, from the three who stabbed me at that time, I didn't know it was a stab. I just had a pain, a quick pain on my tummy. And the car door was open and I was thrown out of this moving vehicle. And so when I was out, I just remember hitting the tarmac and I passed out. So later on is when I was being told that a small child saw me being thrown out, a young girl rather, not a small child, a young girl. And then this girl ran to the grandmother to tell the grandmother. So I was abducted 5:45 in Buruburu, for those who are familiar with the place. And I was found in Ongata, Ongai Kiserian at about 12:30 in the afternoon. So you can imagine, the narration can look very short, but those are the hours that they kept driving and driving as they were doing what they were doing to me, So that's basically what happened. Yes.
Wow. And so then after that, at what point, so now you're in Ongatarungai. So what happened after that? What do you remember happened after that?
Okay. So I have no recollection of what happened after that, but what I'm being told is the people around that village where I was thrown came out after the grandmother started screaming. They tried to get a pulse, and none of them could. So what happened was they called the police. Finally, there was a certain Mweshimiwa who was passing, who actually made that very important phone call that the police acted on it real quick. So when the police came, they they tried to get a pulse, they could not get one. So that's when they wrapped me in the dead man's blanket. You know how they would wrap a dead body and
Yes.
put me in their, we used to call them Black Marie. They put me in the trunk, and now in the hood rather, and now we are headed to City Mortuary. So on our way to City Mortuary, that is the point where I cough. Remember, when they wrap a dead body, they wrap you completely. So it was choking me because there was still life in me. And so that's when the police said, "You mean she's still alive?" So that's when they changed route. Instead of going to City Mortuary, now they were headed to Kenyatta National Hospital. And
Mm-hmm.
when we got to Kenyatta, all I can remember was lights, white coats. I could see the images of the men. So for me, from my angle, I was very confused. I
Mm.
was scared, you know. Now, when the nurses were talking to me, I was shouting, I was screaming, I was kicking, I was very violent, so to speak. So,
Yes.
medically speaking, they said, you know, it's the trauma and you're trying to fight because the images are still so real. The thing has just happened. And so when I got to Kenyatta, um from what I was speaking incoherently. I was throwing out any word of fear and everything.
Yeah.
And from all that, by God's grace, that's when the matron looked at me saying, "This girl looks like a bride." Remember, um Paulina was not dolled up, you know. I
Mm,
wasn't dolled
yes.
up, nothing was done. But you know, when the Bible records that the steps of a righteous man, they are ordered by God. Many times we think that he orders us only on the mountain and not in the valley, you know? And we forget Ezekiel was actually ordered in the valley so that he can command his bones. And I was
Mm-hmm.
I was right there at that time where you just don't see God in this. And when the matron looks at me and says, "I look like a bride," he said, "You know, let's go to some churches and ask if they're missing a bride." My wedding was at 10 in the morning at All Saints Cathedral. Now at this time it's going to 1:30, you know. So the matron goes to All Saints Cathedral and asks, you know, if he meets Reverend Tom Otieno, Reverend Obat, Reverend John Mark, and they are asked, you know, "Was there a wedding here today?" And I say,
Yes.
"Yes, we don't know where the bride is." By this time, they've removed my decor to give room for the second wedding, which was starting at noon, because nobody seems to know where the bride is. My fiance, they've taken him to the vestry. For those who are familiar with All Saints, they've
Yeah.
taken him to the vestry, taken away his phone because he's also asking what's going on. Back at home in Buruburu, my parents are in panic mode. The visitors who are coming in and those who spent the night, people have been sent out, go look for her. The gate man was being asked, "What happened? Did you see her leave?" And
Mm.
it was just crazy. So people went out to try and look for me, but nobody could find me. So when the reverends were told about this lady who is in Kenyatta, blah, 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 they came to Kenyatta. They were able to confirm it's me, and now they were able to pick my fiance. They informed people back at home. And so guys convened at Kenyatta. Even some of my, what are they called? Some of my visitors who were at the church were able to come to Kenyatta. So everybody converged there, but there was also an invited guests, you know, who were also there. And that was, for me, I did not know what was happening at the time. Again, they also made sure that I was very pretty much heavily sedated. So I didn't
Mm.
quite know what was happening. This is just the backstory, now what I was being told later on. But at that time, I just know I was in a disarray. I was,
Wow.
yeah.
Wow.
Mhm.
So how long were you in hospital?
I was in hospital for 2 weeks where they were able to give me the PEP drug to help me not to contract HIV and virus, the virus. They were able to give me the pill to try and ensure that I do not, you know, conceive. Or in any case, I'm cleaned. They were able to clean me, of course. They were able to stitch me where I was stabbed. And that's when the doctor said I will not be able to have children. I will not be able to carry children on my own because the stab went deep to my uterus. My uterus was ruptured. You know, it was bad news after bad news. But let me tell you, woman of God, even at that time, I didn't quite still get it. That's how much I was in a stupor. I was in a state that I cannot even tell you exactly what it was, because
Mm.
even at that time there was just so much going on, and in any case I was so medicated, so it was news. You would hear this in passing, you would see like people are, they're woozy wavy, so it hadn't landed still at that time.
Mm. So
Hmm.
2 weeks you go back home, Terry. How did everything unfold after that? What happened after that?
So after that, of course, it's the going to the doctor's appointments.
Mm.
It's going for counseling, which I would encourage everybody to go through that. It's very important, and especially born again believers. Many of us don't subscribe to counseling, and yet it's very, very important.
Mm.
So I went in for counseling, and of course, it's important to also choose the counselor. Um, my first counselor was very, how do I say it, culturally not correct for me, because she put a dummy before me, a dummy of a man, and
Yeah.
she wanted me to punch this dummy, and release my anger. Now, let me tell you, that doesn't work with many Africans, because we were
Yeah.
punching bags growing up, I mean, that's just, it doesn't work for many of
Mm.
us. So that
Yeah.
that wasn't my kind of therapy. I'm sure it works for somebody else. So,
Mm-hmm.
and so they just had to change me, because I just, every day I would go look at the mirror and say, hey, do you see anything has changed? Do you see? I always encourage counselors to work it's good. You went to school, you read something. Now, how about you customize it according to the client that you have, So that was a problem that I had. So of course I had another counselor. But one of the people who was such a huge support system was my family. And number two, my pastor then, Reverend Peterson Brukenya, whom I fondly call him dad, given the
Mm.
journey that we have walked together. So he also stood with me at that time in counseling and asked somebody else to come in, Mrs. Theuri. I mean, it was beautiful. I had a very strong support system, but it's a journey where you're lonely amidst the support system. My fiance was more than supportive, more than supportive. He was there in every counseling session. When he needed to be outside the door, he stood outside the door and ensured that 2 hours later, when I'm done, he would be sitting quietly waiting for me as I would go out, overprotective, of course. Because
Mm-hmm.
because when it comes to the legal bit of it, they were never found. That case just almost fell through, because I wasn't able to identify any of them. None of them was familiar. I do not know if it was planned, if it wasn't. There were so many rumors flying everywhere. Everybody was accused. My best mate was accused. It was not right at all. My friend Judy was accused of planning something. I was accused. Why do you have to leave the house as a bride? How do you do that? I mean, the society will throw everything at you, but it is what it is.
Wow. What was your hardest point when you, of course, during that time of recovery and everything? What would you say was the hardest for you?
Okay. For me, there were several. Number one, it was hard to even believe that it happened to me. The way you wake up in the morning and you pinch yourself, and
Yeah.
just, did it actually happen? Like, wait, did it happen? Number one. Number two, was it just a public affair? Did just did Was the world introduced to me? My voice just cracked right there, because that was really hard. Was the world just introduced to the bride that was raped? Because one of the things that I didn't mention was the media, the invited guest. The uninvited guest was the media that came on board, and hey, so, they took my story. And that's one of the reasons why I was transferred from Kenyatta to Nairobi Hospital, because consent, and how did they get to know? Did someone leak it? Because the media would call it a scoop story then. And so I was in the media, I was flashed on the media of the bride who was raped. Who wants that? Rape is very shameful. it makes you feel, demeaned. It makes you feel dirty. It comes with all this baggage, which is not yours, but you end up carrying it as a victim at that time, before you become a survivor to a warrior. So that really hurts, so that's number two. The media, the introduction of media, the introduction of all the church members, that everyone who was at the wedding, the people who are, preparing for it, they had to know, why didn't the bride show up? And the answer was, she was raped. So before I had a choice to share, people shared on my behalf. And of course, when people share, there's all kinds of versions, So that was number three. Number four, I had to contend with, what if I'm HIV positive? That time I was quite ignorant about HIV positive. I didn't know. There was so much stigma, of course, then. Today, it's very much improved. And of course, then it was a death sentence, unlike now, where you can still live, a full, amazing life even after you contract the virus. So I was wondering, what if, oh my God, I'm going to die, And then God, so you allow me to get all this far for this to happen. So I was also fighting with God. Like, I couldn't believe this God that I've served from the time I was a little girl. I'm not saying I'm a saint, but I've done good, many times, church. Well, it was deeds, but
Yeah.
I just couldn't comprehend this loving Father, how he could allow this to happen at his watch. Like, he was just chilling, watching me, this thing's happening, and he's not saying, hey, stop. I had such a battle in my mind to deal with that one, And then, of course, now I had to deal with, I will never get kids. Even if I end up getting married, I will never get kids. But marriage, I was just saying, nah, forget it. No, I don't see myself how I'm going to be ready and everything. And I just want to point out at this time to our viewers that even at this time, I was still a pastor. I was loving Jesus, Holy Spirit filled, demon chaser, tongue talking. I am trying to push an agenda here so that even that born again brother or sister knows it is possible for you to get to on the down low, but it's also very possible for you to get back up. And that's what we're encouraging you today.
Wow. Yeah, that was deep. So at this point, how did your fiancé? You told us he was very supportive. So
very.
did that mean that he still wanted to marry you?
Yes, he did. Oh my goodness. My fiancé wanted to marry me from the word go, from the get-go. What he did was, when I was in hospital, I actually do not know how he got my gown. I think maybe my best mate came with my gown to the hospital, but he came with my gown to the hospital. So I remember seeing someone being carried, but it wasn't someone, it was my gown. And I remember him talking to the doctors, like, I think there was an argument or something, and he kept saying, I want to marry her. I want to marry her. That's my wife. I will take care of her. I want to marry her, and I want to go home with her. I will take care of her as my wife, But those words didn't mean anything to me at that time, because I wasn't in any space of getting married to anybody, I hadn't even believed, I hadn't even come to terms with the tragedy that had happened to me. So I wasn't in any position. And then number two, of course, it was now past 6 when all these things now were happening. And so the law of the land could not even permit it. But truthfully, even with time, there was no way I was going to do that. So I was not in a right frame of mind to say yes or no. So, but he wanted to marry me from the get-go. And so after that, when we're going for counseling, when I'm popping in my pills for HIV and AIDS, and I'm just like, God, are you serious? And he was there through it all. He was there all the time and just encouraging me a step at a time and telling me it's going to be okay. We just need to push this. And at first, he used to eyes me like, what do you mean? You don't even know, you're not walking in my shoes. And, the anger that comes with someone who's in pain, and that's why you hear, angry people, they cause a lot of drama every other time. So I was in that space. So I didn't think it was love. I didn't think it was it was all that. I just thought, you're not being considerate, you're not wearing my shoes. But he was reaching out the best way he can and telling me, hey, I love you, I want us to get married. But I kept pushing him away. Yeah, so, but he was very supportive.
Was supportive. So
Very.
at what point did you agree to get married?
Okay, so at the mark of 6 months, because 3 months you go in for the testing, the fast testing for HIV and AIDS, and they told me I am negative. I was really excited, but then they told me 3 more months, so a total of 6 months. I don't know how it is today. And so at the mark of 6 months, I went in and they were able to check and they saw you're negative. I was super excited. And at that time, when he asked again, let's get married, I said, yeah, sure, why not? And then I remember at one point, when we started organizing for the wedding, I remember at one point I said, what if I'm not ready, now for marriage? Because marriage, it comes with a lot, there are many angles to fill in, but my one major concern was on our sexual life. How is that going to happen? How are we going to progress to that, given what I've gone through? But he was very assuring. He told me, I will go with your pace. I will walk with your pace. So can we conquer a mountain at a time instead of trying to level them all out at the same time? And that really gave me peace. That encouraged me to keep going.
Wow. So 6 months down the line, you got married.
Yeah, so we started organizing for a wedding, and 7.5 months to the mark, that's when we got married. A beautiful wedding, I must say. Like, God just loved on us. Now this time, instead of it going to be at All Saints, we had it at Nairobi Pentecostal Karen, Sitam Karen, as they call it today, with Pastor Kivanguli. It was amazing. Pastor Kivanguli gave us the grounds for free, and all this came because of one lady. I call her my sister today. She's called Vipugola. She didn't know me. She did not know me, but she is a rape survivor as well. And what was so beautiful about her, she read my story on the media, on the print media this time, and I don't know if she watched it as well. And that's how she reached out to me. Now, do you remember the uninvited guest who was the media? God used the same medium to get me my blessing. So
wow.
I'm encouraging people that whatever comes your way and you don't like it, it doesn't seem right, it seems ugly, or it's not packaged. There's a way we package our blessings. So it's good to move away, and allow God to package his blessings for you the way he wants it to. So mine was packaged in form of a media, which I hated so much. And again, the same media brought in my blessing, and my blessing was my second wedding, because I say my first wedding did not happen, but it was on my wedding day. So my second wedding was completely paid for. I'm talking about 100% paid for. And it is this lady who organized, beautiful ladies. They call themselves Sheree Africa, VIP, and this team of Sheree Africa ladies, 3 amazing ladies. One stands out for me, Corey, who we're still talking today. They just came out and mobilized people, talked to different people. And that's how I got our second wedding. It was beautiful, beautiful,
Wow.
beautiful, to say the least. God's glory. But of course, the heavy presence of police, because we did not know what had happened the first time. We don't know if it was planned or not. So there was heavy presence of police. And again, something else that was there was so many people came. It's interesting. Maybe I should mention this, that when you see a crowd forming because of you, don't get too happy. It's not like everybody is out there to celebrate with you. Some people are just coming to confirm. My God. And don't even sweat about it. It's good for them to confirm God's
that you're really getting
exactly.
Wow.
As long as it gives back God all the glory, it's all good.
So Terry, you get married. I told my viewers, hope alive will really come out today, because so Terry, you get married. So how was that after that?
Okay. So I get married, and it was challenging. It was challenging, I must say that. Yes, we had talked about the incident, but here's the thing: we didn't get to talk about it in the nitty gritty because it was out there in the media. My fiance was trying to also be careful on what to ask, what not to ask, you know. So he was being very gentle with me. He wasn't so sure where to step and where not to step. So that was mistake number one. And for me, I just couldn't bring myself to start explaining the nitty gritties, even what, of course, the media doesn't know of what was done to me. So that was a challenge. That was already a challenge placed right there before me. And so when we got married, yes, as he promised, very loving, just waiting whenever I am ready, and I'm explicitly talking about the sexual life.
Yes.
So it was hard, but then God helped us to overcome that hurdle. It wasn't easy, I must say. It took a lot of patience. It took a lot of prayers. It took a lot of me making a phone call and asking, is this supposed to happen like this? Is the pain supposed to be there? Because now I'm thinking, now because, excuse me, now because it is my husband, there shouldn't be any pain. Then you get to hear, no, at times there's pain, or maybe you need to do one, two, three things. So it was uncomfortable. It was uncomfortable to say the least, but our hearts were in the right place and we wanted it. So there wasn't pressure. Because when
Okay.
there's pressure, now the game changes. Now you feel like you need to perform, you need to do this for him or for her. But without pressure, when that is removed out of the table, then you can actually relax. And of course, when you relax, your muscles relax and everything else is easier. So that helped quite a big deal.
That helped. Okay. So how did life go on? How was marriage going on? Tell us what happened after that for you, how life
Marriage.
unfolded.
Yes, marriage was good. Marriage was good. Marriage was good for the days that God allowed us to be together. We were on honeymoon, really, like our entire marriage life. We were on honeymoon 3 weeks, so we didn't quite taste so much of the outside honeymoon part, or rather the honeymoon season. We didn't quite step out of it, but I'm so glad that God. I have nothing but good memories. I have nothing but amazing memories, so to speak. So when we came back from honeymoon, that's when we were staying at a very cold place, very very cold place, which was new for me. And I remember that morning, on a Saturday morning, when we were unwrapping our gifts and just being very excited on what different people have sent us. Those people who sent cups. I'm watching you. So we're excited, we're really excited. And I remember in the afternoon, no, in the morning, I said, because it's our first day in our house, a whole day rather, because we had come the previous night, how about we pray and fast? So we're in a prayer and fasting season, okay, that particular day, not just a season, but that
Mhm.
particular day on a Saturday. So morning we're opening a gift, and then I come afternoon, I say, I want to go make my hair, because tomorrow being a Sunday, I'll be going back to church. Pastor was single, now Pastor is married, and good Lord, I love coming through. So it's important to just look good. So I said, I want to go to the salon. And he said, I'm going to take you. So, well, nothing much. So he takes me to the salon. And when we get to the salon, he tells me, I want to go to town. I want to go to town and buy the jiko, for the sake of my other listeners from this part of the world. It's, the charcoal burner.
Yeah.
And I'm shocked because I'm saying, wait, hold up. Why? Why do you want to go buy that? Because my chest really gets congested with the fumes. And he knows that. So I say, I don't think we should get that. Excuse me. So he says, so we have a tussle,
Yeah.
because I don't want, he wants, but he tells me one particular line that makes me back out. And he says, you know, it will be very important. Let's not fight. Don't limit me on how to love you. Don't stop me showing you how I love you. I don't want my
Mm.
bride to be cold one more night. Now, when your husband tells you those words, girl, you
You
better
melt.
step back and let that man be the man, you know. So I just stepped back. I said,
Mm.
okay, have your way. So he went out, he bought the jiko, he came back. I wasn't done. He waited for me until I was done, which was now getting into, about 8 p.m. in the night. I was happy because I knew we're not going to get charcoal, for the charcoal burner.
Mm.
But he was so determined that when we got home, for sure, the guy who sells charcoal was closed, but he went into some dingy kiosk, got in there, pleaded with the guys to sell him the charcoal that was there. They sold him at a much higher price. He bought 2 tins of charcoal. We went home. And he told me, you get in. I don't want you to do I don't want you to, do anything with the jiko. I'm going to do it. So I left him outside lighting the jiko. I went to the house, and I remember going straight to the kitchen to prepare dinner. Remember, we've been fasting and praying the whole day. So I'm preparing dinner, and he comes, he's done lighting the jiko. He takes it to the bedroom, closes the doors so that the room can be warm. So he comes to me in the kitchen. He switches off the gas, carries me on the kitchen counter and tells me we need to talk. And I said, okay, why? What is so important that we had to switch off the gas? And he says, this is very important. So eyeball to eyeball, he says, if I would ever die, I want you to be able to move on with your life because you're coming from a close-knit family. And I stop him right there. Woman of God, I say, listen, what are we talking about? We are 29 days married. We've just come back from our honeymoon. We were praying and fasting the whole day. Like, this doesn't even make sense. Where's the genesis of this? And he doesn't answer me. He just looks at me. He's very quiet, such a gentle soul. And he goes out of the kitchen balcony. He stands there for a while. And then he comes back in. And the atmosphere in the house has completely changed. There's something eerie about the atmosphere. It's just awful. And we burst in tears. We hold on to each other with an embrace and we cry our hearts out, both of us. We really cry. And we pray. I pray, he prays, he finishes with praying. And we say, you know what, let bygones be bygones. We're going to talk about that when our hair is graying. That's the right time to talk about this stuff and not now. Let's just celebrate what God has given us. And we have our meal and go to bed. So when we go to the bedroom, that's when I see the jiko is in there. So he removes it outside. And when he takes it outside, for some reason, I tell him, the room is so warm, but I'm so cold. Like, I don't even get this. And he tells me, it's okay. Let's see. You get under covers as I lock up the rest of the house. So he goes up, he locks the rest of the house. He comes back and he tells me, I feel dizzy. And we laugh about it. Nothing much. Inside joke. I say, today you're not seeing green, nothing much. So he comes to bed. One of my sisters called me to congratulate me that, hey, you guys are back. I passed the phone to my husband then. And he finishes, he puts it on his side. I'm going to come back to where I'm saying that. And so we get in bed, we switch off the light, and we are so cold. Pauline, we're so cold, we don't even understand the magnitude of that cold. Both of us are fine. None of us is in any form of pain, but we are cold. So long and short of it, because of time, we are just, we are, our neighbors come, we are rushed to hospital. This is after I pass out. This is after we are calling out for help. Nobody's showing up. And finally, when I make that much needed phone call, to my neighbor who says, we thought they were thieves. We called the police, but none has showed up. So they managed to come break part of the door. We are rushed to hospital. The nearest hospital to us at that time was Kikuyu Hospital. So we are rushed to hospital. And when I come to, I find myself with all these tubes. And I ask where my husband is. They say he's in the next room. They're working on him. I overhear a certain conversation the nurse was having that sends a shiver down my spine. So I call onto the doctor again. The doctor comes. And that's when I ask again, where's my husband? Like, I need one answer, alive or dead. Just don't get into any other details. And that's when he looked at me and said, I'm sorry, your husband did not make it.
Wow.
Yeah.
29 days into your marriage.
29 days later. That pain is one I cannot explain to you. It's a pain that I tell people, you feel it to your fingernails, you feel it to every part of your body, because you see the Bible talks about you become one. And now you can imagine trying to cut yourself in half, trying to cut a part of you. It's excruciating pain. It's one that lingers for a long time. It's one that knocks you out of your socks. It's one that nobody gets prepared for it, even if your loved one is sick. Once life is pronounced not to be there anymore, you just don't know how to move forward after that. And it was really hard. It was really hard. Yes.
So Terry, I mean, that's a whole journey right there after that.
Mm-hmm.
Just tell us, what was the hardest after that for you? What was the hardest part for you after that? Because I know your time is really catching up with us. I don't know why it goes so fast. But now you were raped, you get married after 6 months, 29 days after your wedding, your husband died. I mean, what was the lowest that you went, Terry?
The lowest that I went was when I sat at the balcony of one of my friend's house in Kileleshwa. I was overlooking a Boretum. And I sat at that balcony and I opened my mouth and I asked, "Are you even there?" And I'm directing my question to God. Are you even there? Like, hold up. Maybe this person I've been serving, maybe this person I've been believing, maybe this person that, are you there? And at that instance, I remembered it's either I'm on his side or the devil's side. For me, there are just two options. Because if I'm on the fence, the Bible is very clear, I'm going to spit you out. There's no being gray, you're either black or white. And that hit me like a third. I couldn't believe that I am stuck on this side, because the other side was not an option for me. Because then I was thinking, I'm going to be dining with the devil? Not really. I don't want that, you know. And just like Job, when you're saying, though you spite me, though you smack me, though you do whatever you're going to do, but I'm going to be here. It was so interesting. It was my lowest and it was my most defining moment. And it is at that time that the Lord, today I know, but for me at that time, it was something dropped it in my spirit that I need to go to church and sing. And I thought, hold up, God, if that is you, you need to confirm. Why? Because there was a way that I wanted God to come. And Lord, I pray our viewers are just listening to this part specifically, because there is a way we pray and we imagine we know how God should come. So my way was, when he comes, he needs to explain to me why he allowed things to happen the way they did. I was waiting for an explanation. I was just waiting. I was just saying, God, you need to come not just as you are. You need to come 7D, 3D, whatever D. Just show up in every angle and explain. I did this because of 1, 2, 3, da, 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 da. That didn't happen. You come and you tell me, go to church and sing. So I told God, if it is you, you need to confirm. You won't imagine, one of our church members then, he's called John Guri, I hope he's watching, he sends me a message and he says, Pastor Songbird, do what the Lord is asking you to do, sing. And no, this is not happening. So I pick my phone and call. He's like, why did you send me that message? It says, I'm in prayer and I just felt impressed in my spirit to tell you that. So right there, God confirmed. So I picked my phone, called my pastor and said, Pastor Peterson, I'll be coming to church this Sunday. So he sent out a car for me and I went to church broken, because he was concerned. Are you ready? It's soon. Are you sure? I said, I'm not sure. I'm not ready, but I know better. I know to obey. It is better than to sacrifice. I know better. So I'm going to do it blindly. That's one thing I need people to understand. You don't have to understand to do what God is asking you to do. As long as it is God directing you, go right ahead. In fact, He's a master of working with foolishness. Like, if you're too grown, you won't be able to do the Lord. Like, you won't be able to hack these commands that God gives. So I had to go to church. And I got to church. I remember I could see people scattering. I remember tears started rolling, because people are not so sure what to tell me. Pastor is a symbol of strength, is a symbol of, I got you, I got you guys together. It's going to be okay. I'm going back to church, and I remember when my pastor was working with me, how some 5 pastors picked themselves up and went to my senior pastor and told him, I need to be fired because a pastor should not be going through this kind of things. These are people who are supposed to be holding my hand. So all these mixed emotions, but you know what? God has spoken. Doesn't make sense. I'm not ready, but I'm going to go. So I went and I was asking throughout, God, what am I going to sing? And I didn't feel impressed to do any particular song. I was wondering until I got to the pulpit, understand that thy word is a lamp unto my feet. So that means God is going to direct you every step of the way. Many times you want to see all the way for it to make sense. So until I stepped on the pulpit and I remembered, and God was speaking to me, that song, Through It All. And that's when I was like, oh, I'm not going to sing it through it all. I have learned to trust in Jesus because I'm still on a journey. So what I'm going to sing is I'm learning to trust in Jesus. And I stood there, tears flowing freely from my eyes. The entire church was soaking wet. And I just remember singing, through it all, I'm learning to trust in Jesus. I am learning to trust in God. I am learning. And let me tell you, woman of God, when I was done singing that song, there was no dry eye, but the shackles that came falling off from me and from the people, the burden that we were carrying, the burden of wanting the Lord to explain himself, and the burden of wanting things to make sense. What happened and why did it happen? And how is it you're here and he's not here? And all these questions, the baggage of carrying this kind of thing, the kind of trauma that I was carrying, just started falling one by one. And it's simply because I obeyed a simple instruction from the Holy Spirit.
Wow.
Yeah.
So Terry, what was the hardest from family and society? Maybe you can put that together.
Mm-hmm.
What were you met with by society and family?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, because of course you
Family,
had a family from the other side. What was the hardest?
exactly. My family, my biological family was very, very supportive. Again, very, very supportive. Family would come, fly in and just be able to hold me together. But my in-laws, and it's not even the immediate. It's interesting that even in weddings, when people are bringing issues, it's just never the very direct people who are supposed to be actually having a voice. And for me, it happened the same way. That they decided, some people decided to say, hey, you must have killed him. And I cannot tell you how quickly you can turn from one status to another. I was a mourner, and shortly I was a murderer in a split second as the society crucified me. And that left me shocked, broken, in disarray. I mean, I was left in very tiny little pieces. And that's why I actually had to leave and move away from home just for some time to be by myself. I was in shambles, so to speak. Like I was left in tiny pieces. And that hurt real bad. But what happened was the society pointing fingers at me and saying, hey, the word was she's cursed. Because one thing happens and another and another. So many things are happening at the same time. And of course, now this is not normal. So when human beings cannot make sense out of something, you're either cultic or you're either a witch, you're either cursed. They have to give it a name. There is always that, someone has to give it a name to whatever it is that you're going through. And so for me, was cast, was everything, and that hurt really bad. I was really crucified by the society. Especially I was really, really, really crucified, to a point that someone was being told, oh, that's not a friend you want close. There's always something that's happened. So women held on to their children because Terry is not okay. Something is off with that girl.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
So fast forward, you go through all that, you go through
Yeah.
the mourning and the healing. So
Mm-hmm.
did you later say, I do not want
Oh, Lord, woman of God, yes, I did. Yes, I did. Do you know, in this whole process, I said never ever. Never ever. That was the word, capital letters, italicize it, do everything you want, make it bold, but I'm never ever going to get married. And today I laugh about it and I continue to encourage our viewers that please don't put a full stop where God hasn't put one. As long as you're still alive, as long as you're not dead, it means that God has a plan and a purpose for you. So own it and walk in it. You at times you don't quite go discovering purpose, you stumble upon it and then you align to what purpose is calling you to do. And that's what happened in my life. So after some years, I was able to a certain young man was coming my way. Well, several of them started coming my way, but one of them just really stood out for me because of his, how can I call it? He was so charismatic and his confidence blew me off the roof. Someone you meet and on the fourth day, was it fourth day? He tells you, I'm going to marry you. I'm thinking, you're crazy. Like, that's not going to happen. So anyway, I had met him much earlier. But so when my late husband dies and he's in the picture, I'm just thinking, no, I don't want any drama in my life. But we continue seeing each other. We continue seeing each other, especially not even seeing each other, but calling. He kept calling me. And one day when he did not call, Pauline, I was like passing out. Like, why is he not calling? And my mother, by this time, he had already told me that, hey, do you know you're falling in love with this guy? I was like, no, not me. It's not happening to me. But for sure, that's when I realized, oh my God, my heart is already swept, And I remember going back to that day, speaking to the widows right now, my heart broke. My heart broke when I realized my heart has moved. The minute I realized I love him, my heart broke because everything in me was saying, you are not being, how can I say it? You are leaving your late husband. You're abandoning that life. Like, it's just over. Like bye-bye, Felicia, I'm done. I felt really bad and I really broke down. I really, really cried at that realization that, I have crossed over. So long and short of it, again, because of time, he asked for my hand in marriage. We actually did get married 1 year down the line. And of course, this is the meat of it. I had to tell him everything. He read it, he watched it, but I had to sit down and talk to him. Now I was getting married to a man of God, a man who is coming from a navigator's background. All the navigators in the house say amen. And, they eat the word. And so we were able to sit down and actually just talk about the nitty-gritties of what I feel, what are my fears, how is it going to be with him? My late husband was gentle. He was willing to work with my pace. What about you? This is what I go through. At times I can see an image of one of those people. How are you going to behave? Like, we had to talk about every detail for me to be able to be comfortable. And it's very comforting. And that's how now we got married. And even knowing that I might not be able to have any children, given what had happened during the incidents.
Yeah, I actually wanted to take you back there. The doctors told you wouldn't have children. And so do you have children now?
Two beautiful girls. Two beautiful girls. Yes, Tehil and
Amazing.
Toda. Amazing.
Amazing.
What God can do that no man can do.
Wow. We
Yes.
have to get you back for another. I mean, we just have to plan it. We have really
Yes.
squeezed Terry's journey. But
Mm-hmm.
Terry, our
Mm-hmm.
theme for this month is keeping hope alive. And I
Mm-hmm.
want you to talk to a lady out there. And I want you to
Yeah.
talk to a young man out there who have
Yeah.
possibly gone through rape. You didn't just go through rape, but 29 days after your marriage,
Yeah.
your husband died. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
how hard can that get? So I
But
want you
God.
to speak to them right now, Terry. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I
I
know
want to
First
speak.
Peter. All right. First Peter chapter 5:7 says, casting all our anxieties on him because he cares for you. So all your anxieties, not some of it, but all. Why? Because he cares. That should be comforting enough. He cares. At times it doesn't seem like that. At times it doesn't seem so. But, let's remind ourselves that God is the only person who will put you in a school and not tell you that you are in one. The only way for you to graduate in the next level is for you to pass some form of exam in this level. It's you're just, it's something, it's a way of draw near to me and I will draw near to you. It's a way of get deeper, because I have secrets. When you go deeper, there are secrets that God wants to speak to you about. So something that I would want to encourage someone out there who's going through this: number one, talk. Allow yourself to speak to someone, not just anyone, but allow yourself to speak to someone. Allow yourself to be vulnerable. Give yourself to someone who you know will be able to keep your story, because not everybody can be trusted and not everybody can handle. That's another thing. So reach out to someone who'll be able to handle you, someone who'll be able to handle you. We all know, like our host today is a counselor. Reach out to someone like that who you will be able to talk to and say, hey, this is what's happening. It's okay to reach out and seek for help. Number two, I am a woman of faith, so I don't know about you, and I know we are speaking to a wide audience. Hold on to something. In as much as I'm a woman of faith, there were times I wasn't able to read the Bible. I want to be real with you. There were times I wasn't able to read the Bible. There was a time I wasn't able to pray. But one of the things that keeps me grounded, there's one of those things, it's called praise and worship. I was able to put my worship, let it play in the background, let it encourage you, let it minister to you, let it saturate your room. It is okay to do that, because then things start aligning in you, and you find yourself in God's presence. That really, really helped. It doesn't help for you to go out and take alcohol, start doing drugs, prostitution, in the name of, I am trying to do away with my depression, or I am trying to be okay. It's not okay, because that's a slippery slope. Once you start that route, you will have to be an addict, because then without that, you have to confront it. So I want to encourage you today, don't dwell, deal. Deal with whatever the Lord has allowed on your plate. Deal with it by a way of prayer, by a way of talking about it, by a way of sharing with people that you can be a confidant to you. And then from there, you will start seeing what is happening. But I want to encourage you that even as you pray, as you do all these things, you have to purpose in your life. You have to have a resolve and say, you know what? I want to do this. Speaking, your tongue carries life and death. Choose what you want to live today. Speak it. I want to encourage you, put it on the wall, plaster it everywhere, but speak life, see life. It is very important for you at that time to be selfish with who you see, be selfish with who you see at that time, because faith comes by hearing and hearing the word of God. So whoever is speaking into your life at that time, or whatever you've exposed your eyes to see at that time, that is what is going to shape your world view at that time, which is what you will carry on. So be very, very selfish when you're in that season with who you expose yourself to.
Wow, wow. Amazing, amazing.
Amen.
Hope after rape, keeping
Amen.
hope alive. I mean,
Yes.
we wouldn't have had a better person or someone
Mm-hmm.
who has walked a path of feeling hopeless, experiencing things that look so hopeless. I mean, how would they? But look at her, happy, smiling. And at times we look at people and think they never had a process, but
That's
there's
true.
always a process. I don't know the process you're going through out there. You're a lady out there wondering, I've gone through so much. Will I ever say I do? At times the dream of ever getting married seems to have died, because who will take me as I am? I mean, we have Terry. She shared her testimony, married again, because God is not through with her. So God is
Mm-hmm.
not through with you right there. Just seek help if it's really putting you down. But just know that we have to keep hope alive. And that's all we could give you this evening. It was nice. Thank you, Pastor Terry, for being with us.
Thank you for
I know it's
having
still
me.
morning wherever we are. And
Yes.
we want to wish our viewers to have a lovely evening. I've been your host, Pauline Gikang'ah. Keep it here, and looking forward to you again right here at Before and After I Say I Do at 7:30 next Friday. And from all of us is God bless you. Thank you.